If your acne treatment contains benzoyl peroxide, you've probably seen terrifying headlines claiming it causes cancer. And honestly, some of the studies are disturbing because under certain conditions, some acne treatments do contain a known cancer-causing chemical. But here's the part nobody's telling you. The company behind the biggest benzene panic may have had a massive financial incentive for those headlines to explode. So today, I'm going to show you which acne products were actually recalled by the FDA, whether your benzoyl peroxide treatment is realistically dangerous, and the shocking conflict of interest behind the studies, plus the 6 rules that dramatically reduce your risk if you choose to use it. Because the truth about benzoyl peroxide is far more complicated than it causes cancer. Hi there, my name is Cheryl Woodman. I'm a scientist, acne expert, and award-winning skincare formulator, here to help you get back to your clear, calm, confident skin. Benzoyl peroxide was the very first acne treatment that I got given for my soul-destroying hormonal acne. I used to get these huge breakouts all around my jawline. They were so red hot and angry, and honestly, I was holding back tears as I bought that bottle of Panoxyl face wash. Not from the relief, but because the pharmacist had just told me there was nothing that could be done and I would just have to accept and live with my acne. I can remember that moment like I'm there right now. I wanted to run out of that store as fast as possible so I could let the tears that were making my voice wobble have their escape. I was so embarrassed. When I heard those words, nothing that could be done, I remember feeling this deep panic in the pit of my stomach. I said to the pharmacist, "What do you mean? Surely there's something that can help." Inside I was screaming, "Please help me. I need help. You don't understand how much this is impacting my life." That's how he eventually went into his back room and came out with a bottle of Panoxyl face wash. Well, I can tell you, I didn't even use it because as I bought that bottle, he told me, "But be careful because this can bleach your face." I hid it in the back of my bathroom cupboard and years later, it got chucked in the bin. I was petrified of it. Maybe as petrified as you might be after hearing that benzoyl peroxide has been linked to an increased cancer risk. And honestly, the studies are worrying, which is why I'm so glad you're here so I can help you understand if this benzoyl peroxide product your doctor or derm or social media recommended to you is a safe acne treatment, or if, like me, you should throw it in the bin. The first important part of this puzzle is that benzoyl peroxide itself is not a cancer risk. That's one quick sigh of relief you can breathe. Benzoyl peroxide is not itself a carcinogen. What is a carcinogen and cancer risk is something benzoyl peroxide can break down into: benzene. This is the benzene molecule and it is cancer causing. You'll be horrified to know scientists used to use benzene to wash their equipment with, and that only stopped in the 1970s. That's pretty crazy, right? Well, this is the benzene peroxide molecule. See how here on each end it has what looks like that benzene molecule? Well, when this molecule gets really stressed out, it can split. So this bit here breaks apart like a Christmas cracker, and instead of releasing presents and a party hat, it releases benzene. This is scary, but just like pulling that Christmas cracker takes a lot of effort, and just like that Christmas cracker can sit quite happily in the supermarket without ever pulling itself apart, that's exactly what benzoyl peroxide usually does. Only when there are very specific conditions does benzoyl peroxide turn into benzene. Now, you might be wondering, okay, Cheryl, what are these very special conditions? Am I causing benzoyl peroxide to turn into benzene if I mix it with salicylic acid or my moisturizer? And I have some relief for you because benzoyl peroxide really only turns into benzene when there's a lot of heat or a lot of light. Well, that's what we thought until there was a shock FDA petition in 2024 from a company called Valisure, claiming acne treatments on the market being sold maybe to you and I contained unacceptable levels of benzene. And that even at 37 degrees Celsius, which is named as body temperature, levels could increase significantly and well above the threshold the FDA set, which is 2 parts per million. They then asked for an immediate recall of all benzoyl peroxide skincare treatments. But wait until you hear what happened when the FDA tested the products themselves, because the results were completely different to what the headlines made it sound like. It's pretty shocking, right? But even more shocking is this big potential conflict of interest. See, Valisure had a patent application for a technique that could potentially stabilize benzoyl peroxide in skincare products. So, say they successfully got the FDA to recall all of the skincare products and treatments using benzoyl peroxide, which would literally be unprecedented. They would suddenly have developed a captive audience for their patent application technology. It could print them millions. So it was truly in Valisure's interest that the study show benzoyl peroxide in real-world conditions does degrade to benzene at significant amounts in acne skincare. It would make a lot of people at Valisure potentially extremely rich. If you're like, whoa, I had no idea, Cheryl, will you please click the like button so this video can reach more women who are struggling with acne and might be deciding to use benzoyl peroxide. If you've clicked that like button, thank you. That means a lot to me. Okay, so the FDA didn't just take Valisure's findings at face value. They conducted, thankfully, their own testing. More testing means we can actually understand if Valisure's results are real. Well, you need to see this. It's even more shocking. This is the FDA's conclusion. They tested 95 acne treatments from stores around the US, and they found Valisure's findings were way overstated. Out of the 95 acne treatments the FDA tested, around 6% had elevated benzene levels over the FDA's 2 parts per million limit. Of these 6%, some were near their expiry date. I know this is a lot of text. I'm sharing this just to show you that the reference is here if you want to dive deeper, but don't worry if you don't. It's okay to skim these because as your science friend, I'm covering the key facts for you. Okay, so I bet you're wondering, oh my goodness, Cheryl, what are those 6 products that did contain carcinogenic benzene? These are the 6 that were voluntarily recalled, including La Roche-Posay's Effaclar Duo Dual Action Acne Treatment, what a mouthful, and Proactive's Emergency Blemish Relief Cream. The FDA's opinion was that even with daily use of these products over an extended period, the risk of developing cancer from the detected benzene levels remains low. But low isn't 0. And I don't know about you, but most of the women I work with do not want to be using a skincare product that has even a low potential to cause or increase their risk of cancer. That's part of the reason benzoyl peroxide is not an ingredient that I personally recommend inside my Acne Warrior program. Instead, I have a secret skincare library of alternatives which do not increase your potential risk of cancer. But I really couldn't tell you the whole story without asking this massively overlooked question. Do the higher levels of benzene detected by the FDA actually increase real-world cancer risk? So here's the really shocking part, because even with all the benzene panic, when scientists looked at real people using benzoyl peroxide over time, the results were not what anyone expected. There are 2 studies I need to share with you, but before I share them, you should know benzene is specifically associated with an increased risk of a cancer called leukemia. You might know it as blood cancer. Okay, so this study shared in the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology was a massive study, which is a really, really good thing. It looked at over 400,000 people who had acne and who did or didn't use benzoyl peroxide. And it also looked at over 600,000 people who had acne versus those who didn't have acne. So can we just take a moment for this? Because this study is incredible. Usually as scientists, we're looking at studies with tens or hundreds of people. This is hundreds of thousands and we love it. And here's what they found. No increased risk of blood cancer when people use benzoyl peroxide as an acne treatment. This other study looked back at people who had a first recorded use of benzoyl peroxide from 10 years ago and concluded that there was no increased risk of cancerous cells developing. If you didn't know that and you need this type of acne support in your life, please hit subscribe. It really helps me to help more women struggling with acne. So thank you. What an emotional roller coaster, right? We've gone all the way from crazy potential benzene levels to wow, is there a cancer risk from the #1 prescribed acne treatment to, oh wait, actually, even though there might be an increased benzene level in some acne treatments, it doesn't look like it's associated with a real world increase in cancer risk. That's the really important bit because poisons are literally all around us, but in doses that don't poison us. What a paradox, right? But I know you get that. It's like how if you only ate chocolate, you would eventually die because too much of anything is a poison. So I have 6 safety rules if you choose to use benzoyl peroxide. First, don't use it with hot water. Second, don't use it in the shower. Again, this is just because of the hot water and the steam. Third, store benzoyl peroxide treatments in a cool cupboard or the fridge. Fourth, check the expiry date before you buy and make sure it's not close to expiring. Fifth, do not mix it with inappropriate skincare actives. I've got a list of what those are in my benzoyl peroxide compatibility matrix, and you can get a copy for free, and I'm leaving the link to that in the description. And 6th, never ever go cold turkey once you start using benzoyl peroxide. You might be surprised to know, even though I'm here talking about how those shock studies on benzoyl peroxide and potential cancer risk are likely fear-mongering, I'm still not an advocate for using benzoyl peroxide because it can cause major damage to your skin barrier. But when I'm guiding someone to safely stop benzoyl peroxide, I never recommend that they go cold turkey. That's why inside my Acne Warrior program, I guide you through a gentle wind down process that protects you against vicious flare-ups. The link to that is in the description if you want to find out more. So despite the terrifying headlines, benzoyl peroxide currently doesn't appear to increase real-world cancer risk for most people. But that does not mean most people are using it correctly. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes I see women make with benzoyl peroxide is using concentrations that are far too strong for their skin barrier. And ironically, that damage can actually keep you trapped in the breakout healing cycle. Most people think 10% is stronger, so it works better. That's not what the research actually shows. In this next video, I'll show you why 10% benzoyl peroxide is often completely unnecessary, the exact percentage that kills acne bacteria effectively, and how to avoid the dry, tight, shiny, destroyed skin barrier look that most women accidentally create. So click here and I'll walk you through it. And if you're watching this in real time and that video is not up yet, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. It'll be coming next week.